The first time my mother-in-law stormed into my house, I knew it wasn't going to be a normal visit, but I never expected it to start with a battle over my cat. The moment she stepped through the front door, she wrinkled her nose like I'd invited a skunk over for tea. This thing is going to ruin your home, she said, pointing at Whiskers, my Maine Coon who was calmly perched on the sofa. Her voice dripped with condescension, like she was addressing a child who'd brought home a stray animal from the street. I froze. I had seen her control freak tendencies before, but this felt personal. Mom, Whiskers is part of the family, I said carefully, trying to keep the conversation calm. But that only seemed to fuel her. Part of the family? He sheds everywhere, and what if he scratches your furniture? You know this is not acceptable. At first, I thought it was just about the cat. Maybe she was exaggerating, like she often did. But then she crossed a line that hit deeper. And while we're at it, she continued, folding her arms and giving me that infuriating smirk, I still don't understand why you insist on working as a structural engineer. That job is over your head. You should be doing something easier. I felt my blood boil. Every late night spent on blueprints, every project I'd poured my heart into, every certification I'd earned, it was all being dismissed in a single, arrogant breath. She wasn't just criticizing my pet. She was belittling my entire career, my identity, and my hard work. But I stayed calm, because reacting in anger would only escalate things. I explained, Mom, I take pride in my work. I design buildings that people live and work in safely. It's not just a job, it's my passion. Her response? A dramatic sigh, like I had failed some invisible test she had invented. Passion doesn't pay for a clean house, dear. You need to prioritize what matters. That was it. The ultimatum was clear. Either get rid of Whiskers, or endure endless criticism about my career and life choices. I could see my spouse shifting uncomfortably beside me, trying to mediate, but I knew I couldn't let this slide. I realized this was more than a disagreement over a cat. This was about control, respect, and boundaries. And deep down, I knew that standing up for myself and for Whiskers was going to ignite a full-blown showdown that I hadn't bargained for. So I made a choice. I wasn't backing down. Whiskers wasn't going anywhere, and neither was my career. The next morning, I thought maybe things would calm down. I was wrong. By the time I stepped into the kitchen for coffee, my mother-in-law had already planted herself at the table, scanning the house with that critical glare that made me feel like I was under a microscope. Whiskers, oblivious to the storm brewing, curled up on the windowsill, soaking in the sunlight. Did you think about what I said last night? She asked casually, stirring her tea. The casual tone made it worse. It was meant to feel like concern, but it was a dagger disguised as politeness. I did, I said, keeping my voice steady, and my answer hasn't changed. Whiskers stays and my career stays intact. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment, I thought she might actually leave. But instead she leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was about to impart some life-altering wisdom. You're being stubborn. And honestly, your job, well, it's just not impressive. I don't see why anyone would hire someone like you for important projects. I wanted to snap. I wanted to tell her every detail of my career, every building I'd designed, every life I'd indirectly saved by ensuring structural integrity. But I swallowed it. She wanted drama, and I wasn't giving her that satisfaction. Instead, I decided to take a different approach. Mom, my career requires years of study, experience, and precision. It's not just about looking impressive. It's about responsibility. Just like caring for Whiskers is my responsibility. Her eyes narrowed, clearly offended by the comparison. Responsibility? A cat? Really? You're making excuses for having chaos in your life. That's when she crossed the line. She got up, walking slowly through the living room, as if inspecting the chaos she imagined. She tapped the couch, brushed her hand over the rug, and finally crouched near Whiskers. I'm just saying, if you want respect from anyone, your spouse, your friends, even me, you need to prioritize your life better. Pets and whatever you do at work won't get you far if you can't manage them. The nerve! Whiskers hissed, the fur along his back standing on end. I felt a surge of protectiveness, not just for my cat, but for my entire life that she was trying to belittle. I realized she wasn't just criticizing, she was testing boundaries, seeing how much control she could exert over me. I made a mental note. This wasn't going to be a simple conversation anymore. It was becoming a battle over respect, authority, and personal space. And I knew I had to prepare, because the next move she made would determine whether this was just a minor family quarrel or a full-scale confrontation. By the time evening rolled around, I could feel the tension in the house like static electricity. My spouse tried to mediate again, suggesting we all sit down calmly and talk. But I knew deep down that this wasn't going to be solved with small talk. My mother-in-law had already made her intentions clear. She wasn't here to compromise. She was here to control. Whiskers, sensing the charged atmosphere, stayed close to me, tail flicking nervously. I rubbed his head, drawing strength from the tiny bundle of fur who had become a symbol of my boundaries. That's when she delivered the blow I wasn't expecting. "You know, I've been thinking," she said with that infuriatingly sweet tone. "Maybe Whiskers isn't the only problem. Your job, well, it really doesn't make sense to anyone outside your head. People need stability, not experiments with beams and bolts. Why don't you consider something safer, something less stressful?" I froze for a second, caught off guard by her boldness. She wasn't just belittling my work anymore. She was attacking my entire life, my choices, and my intelligence. I could feel my patience snapping like a thin wire under too much tension. I took a deep breath and squared my shoulders. "Mom, I'm proud of my work. I don't need anyone's approval for my career choices. And I'm certainly not going to give up. Whiskers for someone who can't respect my life or my home." Her eyes narrowed, and I could practically see the gears turning in her mind. She wanted me to flinch, to beg for approval, to let her win, but I wasn't giving her that satisfaction. "Then you're being childish," she spat, stepping closer. "This is not how adults behave. You're selfish, and if you can't see that, well..." Her words trailed off, but the message was clear. She thought she had the right to dictate my life. I felt a wave of resolve wash over me. This wasn't just about a cat or a career anymore. It was about setting boundaries, demanding respect, and refusing to let someone manipulate my household. I squared my shoulders, met her glare, and said firmly, "If respect is what you want, you'll start by treating me, and Whiskers, with the same respect I extend to you. Otherwise, this visit is over." The room went silent. My spouse looked relieved, clearly on my side now, and Whiskers gave a small, victorious meow from his perch. My mother-in-law's face twisted in frustration, clearly unprepared for resistance. I knew this was only the beginning. Standing my ground had set the stage for the final confrontation, and there was no turning back now. I could feel the storm coming, and I was ready. The next morning, the tension in the house had reached a breaking point. My mother-in-law had stayed the night, clearly planning another round of critiques. I could hear her muttering under her breath as I brewed my coffee, every word dripping with disdain for my career, my cat, and my life choices. Whiskers, however, seemed undaunted, perched proudly on the counter, his tail swishing with quiet confidence. I knew this was it, the moment to fully assert my boundaries. No more polite explanations, no more hoping she would see reason. This was about respect, and I was done giving her a stage for her passive-aggressive commentary. She glided into the kitchen, arms crossed. "I still don't understand why you insist on keeping that cat. And your job? Well, you're clearly not living up to your potential," she said, her voice low, calculated. I took a deliberate sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch. Then I set the mug down and faced her directly. "Mom, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Whiskers is part of this family. My career is important to me, and I will not tolerate anyone belittling my life, my choices, or the people and pets I love." Her jaw tightened, clearly irritated that I wasn't crumbling under her scrutiny. "You're being ridiculous. This is a household, not a playground for your whims," she snapped. I stood a little taller. "A household functions best when respect is mutual. That means you respect my home, my family, and yes, my cat. If you can't do that, then you don't belong here." She froze, clearly not expecting me to call her bluff. My spouse, who had been watching silently, finally stepped forward, giving me a supportive nod. "Mom, it's time to leave," they said firmly. "We need peace in our home." Whiskers gave a triumphant meow, almost as if celebrating the victory. My mother-in-law's face twisted in disbelief and fury, but there was nothing left for her to argue. Her attempts to control, belittle, and undermine had been met with a wall of calm, unwavering boundaries. She stormed out, muttering insults that no longer held power over me. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of relief and empowerment wash over me. I looked down at Whiskers, who had jumped onto my lap, and smiled. He wasn't just a pet. He was a reminder that standing up for yourself, even against the most controlling forces, is always worth it. From that day forward, my mother-in-law's visits were brief, her criticisms muted, and my household peaceful. I had proven that respect is earned, boundaries matter, and no one, not even family, has the right to belittle your life or your career. And Whiskers? He continued to rule the house with quiet dignity, a furry testament to resilience and loyalty. The battle had been won, not through anger, but through courage, patience, and unwavering conviction. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss any of our crazy Karen encounters. Got a wild family drama story of your own? Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear it.